Hi guys, today we're gonna react to Zack the film. Alright. Be sure to go subscribe to him. He makes some good videos. This is his.
He shoved his arm down the bear's throat.
Oh,
Down, the bear gagged before letting go of the man and running away.
Ew.
The man was out hunting. He accidentally woke
I don't like
his
his
bear. It pinned him down to the ground, and as he tried to fight back,
mouth.
he remembered his grandma
I don't have to say.
Big animals have strong gag reflexes, so when it tried to bite him, he just jammed his fist straight down its throat.
You remember your childhood.
He shoved his arm.
That's very good.
As she got out of bed, and her 220-pound body fell on top of her husband, who was lying on the floor beside the mattress. She slid into the gap between the bed and the wall, wedging him underneath her weight. He tried to push himself free, but the pressure on his chest made it impossible to breathe. His wife screamed while trying to lift herself up. She couldn't move. Neighbors rushed in.
Oh no!
But her husband had already suffocated. He stumbled as she got out.
Oh my god, why? Hey, you like this?
Crashed between two icebergs, throwing the man into a sheet of ice. And he watched as polar bears fed on his crewmates. When one attacked him, he managed to kill it with his knife.
Is his eye?
It had a baby. Out of pity,
Oh, he's cute too.
as his own, teaching her to fish for him. She even protected him by fighting off other bears. And they lived this way for the next 6 years. Eventually, the man was rescued, but the bear who saved his life is left behind.
He's sad now.
The child fell in an accident, damaging the left side of his brain, and this left him unable to read, write, and even tie his shoes. But his mother soon realized he could sculpt a perfect copy of an animal with just clay in his hands.
How do you get the clay though?
On screen for only a few seconds. You see, the injury forced the other half of his brain to work extra hard, which boosted his memory and art skills to a superhuman level.
How he get clay?
Throughout his life, he made hundreds of lifelike animal statues, and he's now considered a genius
clay?
The child fell in an accident.
Get out.
The tool suctions onto the fake eye before completely plucking it out. Then it's wiped clean and polished and pressed back in.
Why you need to polish it?
Earlier, an infection had destroyed his eye.
I know that.
Doctors couldn't save
I've seen this before.
Worked with an expert to set a real 2-carat diamond in the middle of his new prosthetic eye.
Okay.
And now it catches the light with every blink. Tool suction. If you sink your teeth into a block of ice and get them really cold, then you take a sip of hot coffee, could your teeth crack from the heat? Well, your teeth are made of hard outer enamel, built to handle changes in temperature.
Oh, I don't know that.
To crack, the cold teeth would have to rapidly be heated up to 700 degrees Fahrenheit. And coffee just isn't that hot. But if your teeth already have chips or hidden cracks, that heat could actually split them wide open.
Oh my god, why you act like that? Oh my god.
If an anteater stuck its tongue through your mouth and into your stomach, could it remove the food you ate with its tongue? Well, their tongues can reach up to 2 feet, which is technically long enough to get to your stomach, but it would have to get past some tough twists and barriers inside the body first. After that, as it scraped for food, its quick flicking motion could tear up the delicate tissues inside. And when it pulled back its tongue to eat, it would drag up stomach acid with it, burning your throat and possibly drowning you in your own blood.
Oh my god.
Through your mouth and into
then
your
I will kill it.
Remove the food you ate with its
Wait,
tongue.
I can't because I die. Oh my god.
If you were swallowed by a sperm whale, you would be squeezed down its massive throat. You'd continue down the esophagus and into a series of stomach chambers that are filled with digestive acids.
Grab it
These acids would immediately start.
I'll grab it.
Swallowed by a sperm whale,
And grab it so tightly my nails got onto it, but it's too oily. But I scratch it, but I go to the acid, I still die.
Would immediately start breaking down your body. But even if you manage to avoid the acid, the lack of air inside the whale would quickly cause you to suffocate.
Why?
If you were swallowed
Did
by
he say what?
He pressed the controls super fast and beat the same game for the 100th time. And he really wanted the game, but it was just way too expensive. He got a text from his girlfriend, Mary. Let's not do gifts this year and just save our money instead. Sound good? He glanced at her camera on the shelf. It had slipped from her hands weeks ago, causing a crack in the lens. And every photo she took since had a line running right through the middle. He really wanted to get her a new lens for Christmas, which means he needed If you buckle a child into a car seat while they're still wearing a thick, puffy jacket, the straps sit on top of all of that padding, and it looks tight and secure, but in a crash, that jacket flattens instantly, turning that hidden padding into extra space the harness can't control. And with all that sudden slack, they can jolt forward far enough for the straps to slip off their shoulders, letting their upper body fly forward with nothing to stop it. So instead of a puffy jacket, use thin layers and buckle the child in first, then put the coat on backwards over the straps, allowing the harness to stay tight against the body and hold the child safely in place during a crash. If you buckle a child into the bones are carefully removed from the chicken, which is then seasoned and stacked on a duck. Then the duck is rolled up and placed on top of the turkey, and any extra spaces are filled with stuffing. Next, the edges of the turkey are sewn shut, while tightly wrapped strings hold the meat together. It's roasted for several hours at a low temperature to cook evenly. And as it heats up, the fat melts and the flavors combine. Finally, the turducken is carved, revealing the layers of meat inside. The bones are carefully removed. The cable snapped and fell on her face, and even though people screamed, the ride operator did nothing. The girl pushed the cable off her, but part of it had become wrapped around her legs. Suddenly, the ride dropped, pulling the cable tight. It sliced right through her, cutting off her feet, and they dropped to the ground below where a crowd gathered to watch. Now, doctors were able to reattach one of her feet, but the other was too damaged. The cable snapped and he pressed the controls super with a knife, stab the cross on the lobster's head to kill it. Then poach it in salted water just enough to loosen the meat. After that, snap off the claws at the knuckles. Twist, then pull, and the meat should slide right out. Then use a knife to crack open and empty the other side. Straighten the tail before you twist it clean off. Then squeeze the shell to pop out the juicy meat. Next, remove the 8 legs. Use a rolling pin to squeeze the meat out from each one like toothpaste. And finally, you can enjoy every bit of the lobster's meat. With a knife, they stuck the metal nails into each end of the hot dog and used wires to connect it to a plug in the wall. Once the connection was complete, the electrical currents started flowing into the meat. Now, because hot dogs have water and salt inside, they conduct electricity, which turns into heat as it passes through, cooking the hot dog evenly. Eventually, the water inside transforms into steam, and once there's too little water left to carry the electricity, it turns off, giving you a perfectly cooked hot dog. They stuck the metal nails into each.
This isn't just a spitter, it's your glowing master. He sank his teeth into the snake and bit it twice. And he did this immediately after the snake had bit him. You see, locals believe that biting snakes actually returns the venom, pulling it out of your bloodstream and giving it back to the creature. And this snake did die on the spot. The man was rushed to the hospital, given anti-venom, and released the next day. So whether it was the medicine or the myth, this time both may have worked. He sank his teeth into the snake and bit it twice.
He did this immediately after the snake had bit him.
Hello, did that talk?
Snakes actually returns the venom, pulling it out of your bloodstream and giving it
Then
back to the creature.
I will bite
This
the.
snake did die on the
Then
spot.
I will bite the snake twice
Given anti-venom and released
and
the
give
next
my
day.
doc.
So
And
whether
my
it was the
doctor will
medicine
give
or
me
the myth,
tapis
this time,
tongsi that
both may have
the
worked.
activium set.
They gave a baby a rat to play with, but then struck a steel bar behind him, making him
Very cool, Sorry.
He picked up the wandering chicken and threw it toward the audience. Now he thought it would just fly away, but instead it plummeted into the crowd.
How did it fly
Dozens of
away?
hands grabbed it, tearing at its wings, feet, and head. When
Oh,
they threw it back, it was in pieces, with feathers and blood everywhere. And for years, Alice Cooper was known as the rock star who killed a chicken. He picked up
it's the people who killed the
and
chicken.
threw it toward the audience. Now he thought it would just fly away, but instead it plummeted into the crowd. Suddenly, dozens of hands grabbed it, tearing at its wings, feet, and head.
That's not
You sliced
good.
open a giant cockroach, squeezed inside, and sealed yourself in. Could you survive a deadly nuclear fallout? Well, when a nuke explodes, the radiation travels through the air. But as it passes through different materials, it loses concentration, meaning it will eventually run out. Now, cockroaches are mostly made of water, which would quickly block the radiation. And it would only have to be about the size of a minivan to protect you. But the heat from the explosion would still boil the cockroach's blood, roasting you right inside its body. If you sliced open a giant cockroach,
Get up.
she put super glue onto the top of her tooth before cramming it into her gums. Now, when she was a kid, her mom went to the dentist, where they found tumors growing in her throat.
Why?
She died soon after, leaving the woman all
Oh
alone.
no.
Decades later, when her teeth began to fall out from smoking, she was just too scared to go back to the dentist and decided
Why?
to just glue her teeth back in.
You just have a
Chemicals in
tumor.
the glue broke down her jawbones, which made more teeth fall out. Eventually,
Ew.
she got the courage to see a dentist, where they gave her a brand new smile.
Let me go to
Put
the
super glue
dentist
onto
real
the
quick.
top of her tooth
'Cause
before
my
cramming
teeth
it into
tomorrow,
her gums. Now, when she was a kid, her
everything.
mom went to the
So
dentist, where
I
they
don't know how
found
I'm
tumors
gonna
growing in
go
her
to
throat.
the dentist
She
real
died
quick.
soon after, leaving the woman all alone.
Okay.
Face the
Next
wall.
one.
Take 2 steps back, put your head against the wall, grab the chair, and try to stand up. If you're a man, this is most likely impossible. And if you're a woman, it should be a breeze. You see, if you have bigger feet, those 2 steps at the beginning will be larger, moving you farther from the wall. And if your torso is longer, your center of gravity sits around your chest, which is why men
Let me
just
try
end up
real
head
quick,
butting.
guys.
But women
Ah.
have smaller feet, so they stand closer to the wall.
Let's see.
And their center of gravity is around their
See, let's
hips,
see, bro.
allowing
Let's
them
see.
to stand up easily. Face the wall. Take 2 steps
I have a
back.
chair.
Put your head against the
Now.
wall. Grab the chair and try to stand up. If you're a man, this is most likely impossible.
Guys, I'm grabbing a
It should be
chair.
breeze. You see, if you have bigger
I'm
feet,
grabbing
those 2
a
steps
chair.
will be larger,
Almost falling
moving
up.
you farther from the wall.
Do you hear it?
Torso is
Grab a
longer,
chair.
center of gravity sits
That is
around
so
your chest, which is
heavy.
why
Guys,
men
I'm
just
gonna
end up
put it
headbutting
at my
the wall.
dining table
Women
real
usually
quick.
have smaller feet,
I'm
so
here,
they
guys.
stand
I'm
closer to the
here.
wall, and their center of gravity is around their hips, allowing them to stand up easily. Face the wall, take 2 steps back, put your head against the wall, Grab the chair and try to stand up. If you're a man, this is most likely impossible. And if you're a woman, it should be a breeze. You see, if you have to feet, those 2 steps at the beginning will be larger, moving you farther from the wall. And if your torso is longer, you're set to repeat. He wrote, "I am awake" in his journal. Just a few seconds later, he wrote it again. Each time he felt like he was waking up for the very first time. You see, when he was in his 40s, a virus had attacked the part of his brain that saves facts and memories, causing his mind to reset every 5 to 30 seconds. He could still pour a cup of coffee, but he would forget it was sitting right in front of him.
Wait, let me go to toilet real quick. Wait for me. Wait, let me actually end the video real quick. Okay, good guys, we're back.
When he met a new person, he would greet them again just a few seconds later, as if it was for the first time. Now, he could still sit down at a piano and play beautifully. That's because he still remembered all the skills he learned before he got sick. And the virus didn't damage his emotional memory, so every time his wife walked into the room, he hugged her with tears, because to him, it always felt like they had been apart for years. He wrote, "I am awake" in his journal. He thought it was a runny nose, but the clear liquid was not mucus. You see, 2 years earlier, she got into a car crash, hitting her head on the dashboard. This broke the thin bone between her brain and her sinuses, and the fluid filling her skull started to leak out.
What's that?
She thought was just a runny nose. Soon, she was losing 2 cups of fluid a day, until doctors finally found the hole. They took fat from her belly and plugged it.
Ew. I'm not even looking in.
Finally allowing her to live normally.
There. What just happened?
If you murder someone and then confess the murder to a priest, they cannot tell anyone, ever. You see, it's called the seal of confession, and breaking it will get you kicked out of the church forever. But what if you confess that you're about to kill the priest's own mother? Well, the priest still has to stay silent. He can't warn her, can't call the police, he can't even sit outside her house to protect her, because any action could reveal what he heard. But what if a priest does break the seal of confession, and then confesses that to another priest? Well, that second priest also can't tell anyone, because now that confession is sealed too. If you murder someone and then confess the murder to a priest, they cannot tell anyone, ever. You see, it's called the seal of confession, and breaking it will get you kicked out of the church forever. But what if you confess that you're about to kill the priest's own mother? Well, the priest still has to stay silent. He can't warn her, can't call the police.
Wait,
he can't
I
even
forgot
sit outside her
recording.
house to protect her, because any action could reveal what he heard. But what if a
Forgot
priest
recording,
does
guys.
break
Sorry,
the
bro.
seal of confession, and then if you murder someone and then
This
he sliced open the bear before squeezing
in the
himself
butt.
inside, then waited
The hell?
silently as the police burst into his room. You see, the teenager had stolen a car, then filled it with fuel and left without paying. When police raided his house, he was nowhere to be seen, until they noticed a giant teddy bear looking like it was breathing. They pulled the teen out and arrested him, and he was sentenced to 9 months for
So
his
don't
crimes.
breathe, boy.
Sliced open. As the crank is turned, gears on one side begin to spin, rotating 2 heavy metal rollers. Then a sheet of hot, soft sugar is dropped between them. Now, each roller is covered in tiny carved shapes that
guys.
repeat all the way around the metal.
You
and
know,
as the rollers
guys.
spin toward each other,
You
they grab the
guys
sugar,
love
squeeze
Daddy
it flat
Bears.
like a press, and force it into every groove and pattern.
And
Then a long sheet of connected candy
and
shapes comes
so
out the bottom.
you like
Once it cools and
butt
hardens,
goop.
the thin lines between the shapes turn brittle, so the strips are dropped onto a table, snapping it apart into perfect little candy drops.
How
The crank is
cute! Over there until
Electrodes press into the fungus, and inside, a web of thin white threads carry electricity like tiny wires. As a small pulse of electricity is sent in through one electrode, the signal spreads through the threads and comes out at another point. Then another pulse is sent, and the threads slightly change how the electricity can move through them. So the signal
Dad!
electrodes
Bye.
press. He wrote the message on the eggshell, and it seeped through the tiny holes and into the egg. When he boiled it, the ink would wash off, leaving the egg
I've seen
clean,
this
and
before,
it was
so
delivered
it's
to the
funny,
prison.
bro.
I'm the type who seldom blushes my.
He grabbed the bone, darted out of the butcher's shop, and raced toward home. But while crossing a bridge, he froze. In the water below was another dog, staring right up at him. And in its mouth was a bone that looked even bigger than
I
his
think that's
own.
your
The hair
reflection.
stood up on his back as he began to growl at the other dog. But it growled back. He bared his teeth. He wanted the bigger bone. He jumped into the water, but his bone slipped from his mouth. He watched it sink out of sight forever. And when he looked for the other dog, it was gone too. He had lost everything because he couldn't appreciate what he already had. He grabbed the bone, darted out of the butcher's. If you get a burn, take some skin from a tilapia and apply it like a bandage, would your
What
injury
is
heal
tilapia?
faster? Well, fish skin stays moist over time, so it doesn't need to be changed as often as gauze. And the collagen inside can actually act as a natural building block for your cells. But the surface is covered with bacteria, which could leak into your wounds and give you an infection. This is why the hospital cleans their fish skin with special chemicals first before
I wanna
placing
use
it
that.
over your injury, helping your skin grow without the infection. If you get a
But
burn, take some
it's
skin from a
like I
the
don't
gas
know.
rushed out of the swollen body, causing the Pope's corpse to deflate right in front of horrified onlookers. An awful smell poured out, and his nose and fingers began to rot. Now, this happened
Oh my
because
God.
the embalming process was done incorrectly. Instead of draining and preserving the body correctly, they sprinkled it with oil and sealed it with plastic wrap. Bacteria inside began to produce large amounts of gas. With nowhere for it to escape, it created so much pressure that the corpse ruptured. The gas rushed out of the... You would plug the cord into the dashboard, making the coffee maker instantly light up. Inside, a heating element would warm the water, which would pass through a screen filled with coffee grounds. And this would pull the flavor into the water. Opening the tap would pour it into a mug, giving you a cup of fresh coffee. But since the water didn't pass through all the grounds like a normal coffee maker, it mostly just tasted like bean water. So no one really bought it. There's only a few left to this day.
Bean
Would plug the
water.
cord into the dashboard, making the coffee maker instantly light up. Inside, a heating element would warm the water, which would pass through a screen filled with coffee grounds. And this would pull the flavor into the water. Opening the tap would pour it into a mug, giving you a cup of fresh coffee. But since the water didn't pass through all the grounds like a normal coffee maker, it mostly just tasted like bean water. So no one really bought it. There's only a few
Wait, guys,
left
let me
to
think.
this day.
Okay, guys, we're back. Isa ko di lama.
Flying his jet past an airplane pilot who couldn't believe his eyes. Later, when the shocked pilot tried to report what he saw, everyone just laughed at him, thinking he was imagining things. Until dozens of other pilots started seeing it too. You see, the U.S. was testing its first jet, and it needed a way to keep it secret. So the pilot put on the gorilla mask and a derby hat. He even chewed a cigar as he flew, making anyone who spotted him think they were going crazy. slipped on the gorilla mask before flying his jet past an airplane pilot who couldn't believe his eyes. Later, when the shocked pilot tried to report what he saw, everyone just laughed at him, thinking he was imagining. They released millions of needles into space, forming a thin metallic ring around Earth. And when radio signals were beamed up there, they would hit the needles before bouncing back down again, making radio communication possible. You see, the military were afraid the Soviets could destroy undersea cables, which would cut off all reliable communications. Now, the first launch failed when the needles clumped together, but on the second try, they spread out into a ring around the Earth. Astronomers from other countries were furious, calling it space trash. And
is it trash? Oh my God!
He thought it was a cut the flap in the lid of a pizza box, then cover the hole with plastic wrap, and line the whole thing with aluminum foil. Next, add a square of black paper in the bottom. Place your crackers, chocolate, and marshmallow on the paper under the plastic, and use a stick to prop up the lid. Now, if you stick it in the sun, it will reflect off the foil, bouncing down into the box, and the black paper will absorb the heat, while the plastic wrap traps it inside. And after 30 minutes, you'll have a gooey, delicious s'more. Cut the flap in the lid of a pizza box, then cover the hole with plastic wrap. So the signal takes it. He wrote the message on the egg. He grabbed the bone. If you get a burn, take some skin.
Bro, I did.
The gas rushed out of the.
Get out.
He slipped on the. They released.
Slide your nose.
She cut the flap. She scribbled on an egg, then pushed it right back inside the chicken. A few hours later, the hen laid the same egg again. With the words, "Christ is coming," she claimed to have powers, saying her chicken had been blessed. People came from miles away to see it, paying her coins just to watch the holy bird. Now, she wrote on every egg herself and sold fake potions to anyone who believed her, until one killed a woman and she was hanged for murder. But people still wanted her power, so they bought pieces of her skin as charms to keep evil away. She scribbled on an egg. If you place a hex nut in a balloon, blow it up and spin it around inside. As it rolls along the inflated surface, each ridge on the nut hits the latex. This makes a thumping noise, but since the hex nut is moving incredibly fast, it sounds like a high-pitched whir. Now, if you use a nut, it tends to move slower, which changes the sound to a lower pitch. And each time the hex nut gets bigger and slows down, the sound gets lower. But if the nut is too heavy, it will start to stretch the latex until it bursts through, popping the balloon and sending the metal flying. If you place a hex nut in a balloon, blow it up and spin it around inside as it rolls along the inflated surface. They held the goldfish over the tank before dropping it in as food. But instead of being eaten, it managed to escape, slipping into a drainage pipe. It swam until it reached a filtration tank. Even though it was pitch black inside, the fish was finally safe. It survived by eating scraps of food that passed through the filter. And for the next 7 years, it lived there alone. When workers finally opened the tank to clean it, they found the goldfish, which had grown to be 10 inches long. And to honor it, they gave it a real tank, where aquarium visitors could visit the fish who escaped death. He held the goldfish inside the bullet. A layer of soft metal is wrapped around a tiny, super hard steel spike. And when it hits the bulletproof vest, the soft metal flattens and peels away, leaving the steel spike intact, meaning all its energy focuses on the very tip of the core. The vest's woven fibers spread the impact across the weave, but the spike slips between them, and the point drives through the fibers and any metal plates behind it. So while a normal bullet would be stopped on impact, the spike punches straight through it and into the flesh on the other side.
Oh,
Inside the
that I will
bullet,
buy it.
a layer of soft metal
Can
is
buy it
wrapped around
or
a
not?
tiny super.
Lucky me.
She fell into a dumpster while taking out the trash.
Oh my
The
God.
garbage truck emptied it and started compacting. It crushed the garbage
Oh my God.
and
Oh my God.
her
Oh my
4
God. Oh my
times
God.
until he finally saw something moving on his truck cam. He turned off the truck
Wait,
and
like
the
this.
compactor stopped, which is when the neighbors heard screams. Rescuers rushed in to help her. They used a crane basket to lift her out, and despite serious injuries, she did
But it
survive.
was sad,
She fell into a
but
dumpster.
good.
The headsets were strapped onto the cow, showing them a green field. And when it was milked, it produced more than usual. So some people think the VR image worked by improving the cow's mood. But the
No, that was
headsets are
cool.
actually designed for humans, showing the same image from slightly different angles, one
Wait.
for each eye. And since the cow's eyes are much further
He
apart,
has
2
4
separate headsets would show
regions.
4 images in total, creating
Yeah.
total confusion for the cow. And the boost in milk? Well, that probably just came from the headset's light, not the virtual view.
Oh, like
New Super Stay
a
Baby
confusion.
As
Oh, sorry.
John Wayne was filming his movie, the set was right downwind from a nuclear test site, and the wind carried radioactive dust onto the movie's cast and crew. Now, the government insisted there was no danger, and the
So
film
they
crew
don't.
trusted them. But years later, over 90 of them got cancer, and 46 of them passed away from the disease, including John Wayne, who was killed by stomach cancer 20 years after shooting the film. Now, the government finally admitted they might be responsible, but it's impossible to know where exactly the cancer came from, so nobody knows for sure. As John
For
Wayne,
sure.
the bug shoots out a sticky goo, which is
Yeah, I
scraped
said
off
this.
the tree and washed in a giant pot. Next, it's laid out on
Ew.
the ground to dry before getting
Yeah.
stuffed into a long sock
Long
over a
sock.
hot furnace. And as
Yeah,
it
hopefully
rotates, the
it
dried
rotates the
goo
gold
melts, dripping onto the tray below. It's then sprayed into an even layer and stretched by a worker using their hands and feet until it's nearly transparent.
Sorry.
Finally,
Try
it's
to
cut
copy
into
them.
small pieces, shipped to factories around
But
the
you
world,
slap
and
them.
mixed into candy to make it shiny. So when you bite into a jelly bean, you're basically eating bug goop.
Yeah. If you're eating
Bug shoots out a sticky
bug
goo, which is
poop.
scraped off the tree and washed in a giant. She poured
Let's
concrete.
do it. Forget. So laggy. Wait, let me do this well quick. Oh my God.
She poured
God.
She poured concrete straight into the storm pipe at the edge of her
I
yard,
can't
and the wet
talk.
cement hardened inside, sealing the pipe so water couldn't flow through. You see, that pipe was part of the neighborhood's draining system, carrying rainwater underground to a nearby pond where it could collect. But the woman claimed that the drain was eating away at her yard and causing sinkholes.
The
Once
water
the
is
pipe was
eating
sealed, the water had nowhere to go. Eventually,
eating the
it pooled
grass.
on the street, flooding her neighbors' yards and sidewalks. And the puddles became a breeding ground for huge swarms of mosquitoes. Officials ruled that she caused the problem, ordering her to fix it or be fined $300 for each day it remained blocked. The cable
Is that-
snapped
yeah!
and fell on her face.
Oh, not this.
They built up 26 stories, stuffing each floor full of pigs. Inside, food is funneled through pipes into feeding spots that can be opened with the push of a button. And giant tanks turn their poop into gas, which actually helps power the building. Trucks deliver hundreds of pigs inside, which are then moved up in elevators to different levels. And when they
Okay.
get big enough, the pigs are shuffled to another building to be killed and butchered before they're shipped out to be cooked at restaurants all over the country.
What?
Built up 26. He shoved his arm down the bear's
Now we know this. Yes.
When the dial is turned, a stone disc starts spinning, which which you can use to sharpen your knives. At the same time, it turns a fan inside. And when you attach a bag and a hose, it turns into a vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
On the other end, a notch next to the sharpening disc is designed to hold a belt, which could power a table saw, meaning you could cut wood, vacuum your house, and sharpen your knives all at the same time. When the dial is turned, a stone disc. He wrote, "I am awake" in his journal, and just a few seconds later, he wrote it again. Each time. If you get it just right, it'll pull on the bolt slightly. Next, use a pick to lift each of the levers inside until you feel one slip into place. Now, if you do this for each of the levers on a normal lock, you'll push all of them into the right position, allowing the bolt to slide open. But this particular lock has an extra piece of metal, meaning if you push one of the levers too far, it locks everything in place. And even the real key can't open it. This tells the owner that someone was trying to break in. Instead, they have to turn the key the wrong way to release the metal bar before they can open the lock. He shaved the head and began to tattoo a message directly onto his servant's scalp. After that, he rubbed a special paint into the wounds to color it. He then waited until his hair grew out completely, covering the tattoo. The servant was then sent to his allies, who shaved his head again, revealing the hidden message about the plans to rebel. Applied to be a manager at the sewage company after working there for 2 years. But instead of thanking him for his hard work, they just rejected him. So he ripped the equipment from the office and shoved it into his car. He drove to nearly 50 different sewage pumps as he hacked the systems he once built. This sent massive floods of poop into the nearby rivers, turning the water black and killing all the fish. It took days to clean up the mess, but he was eventually caught and sent to prison.
Oh my God.
He applied to be a manager at the sewage company after working there for 2 years. But instead of thanking him for his hard work, they just rejected him. As he grabbed the statue and pulled, it would stretch like a slinky for dozens of feet. And this is because these sculptures are made by taking a sheet of paper and painting on thin strips of glue through a metal grate. And when the next sheet is placed on top, the grate is shifted slightly, making an alternating glue pattern when it's put together. And this is repeated thousands of times until there's multiple stacks. Then squiggly shapes are cut out with a spinning blade and glued on top of each other to form a blocky head. Finally, it's shaved down and smoothed with sandpaper, giving a lifelike statue you can pull apart. Just try not to drop it. You break the statue.
Sigma, Sigma boy,
Sigma boy, Sigma boy. Wow. How many Sigma?
Sigma, Sigma boy, Sigma boy, Sigma boy.
She escaped her abusive boyfriend, taking her puppy with her to a hotel. But since she worked 12-hour days, the puppy got bored and chewed through the pipes. When the hotel manager found out, he told her to get rid of the puppy, or they would both be kicked out. With no other option, she called an Uber to the vet, planning to get the dog put down. But when the driver found out, she called her husband, and they both agreed to adopt the puppy instead. They gave a baby a rat. The letter arrived just days after they bought the home, and at first it seemed to be a welcome to the neighborhood. But as the man kept reading, the hairs on his neck stood up. "Do you know what lies inside the walls?" the letter asked. It was signed by the Watcher, who claimed to have observed the house for decades. And now this person was watching the new owners and their 3 children. Over the next few weeks, more letters arrived, telling the couple that if the children played in the basement, no one would hear them scream. It also said they would be watching the family through the windows. But despite security systems, police, and private detectives on the case, the Watcher was never found. After 6 months of terror, the family finally put the house up for sale, and left. The letter arrived. Just rest the bottom stick between the nook of your thumb and your ring
Oh, I
finger,
don't know how to
gripping
use
it lightly
chopstick.
to keep it still.
Let's see.
Next, hold the other.
Wait, let me grab the chopstick real quick, guys. Grab the chopsticks. Grab the chopsticks. Grab the chopsticks. Do my chopsticks. Let's go.
Rest the bottom stick between the nook of your thumb and your ring finger, gripping it lightly to keep it still. Next, hold the other one like a paintbrush, using your thumb, index, and middle finger for ultimate precision. When you move your fingers up, the top stick tilts open, while your thumb acts as a hinge. At the same time, tension between your thumb and ring finger keep the bottom one in place. And when you bring your fingers down again, you can lightly grip the food before popping it into your mouth. But if you try to also rest the bottom stick between the nook of your thumb and your ring finger, gripping it lightly to keep it still. Next, hold the other one like a paintbrush, using your thumb, index, and middle finger for ultimate precision. When you move your fingers up, the top stick tilts open, while your thumb acts as a hinge. At the same time, tension between your thumb and ring finger keep the bottom one in place. And when you bring your fingers down again, you can lightly grip the food before popping it into your mouth. But if you try to also move the bottom stick, the tendons in your ring finger would be too weak to control it, meaning you could end up dropping your food. Rest the bottom stick between the nook of your thumb and your ring finger, gripping it lightly to keep it still. Next, hold the other one like a paintbrush, using your thumb, index, and middle finger for ultimate precision. When you move your fingers up, the top stick tilts open, while your thumb acts as a hinge. At the same time, tension between your thumb and ring finger keep the bottom one in place. And when you They dressed the dead body in a soldier's uniform and slipped a fake identity card in his pocket, along with a photo of a woman who was supposed to be his fiancée. Then they handcuffed the briefcase to his wrist. Inside was a top-secret letter outlining the military's plan to invade Greece. You see, Allied forces wanted to attack the Nazis in Sicily, but they knew it would be a bloody battle. So they used this homeless man's body to create a fake officer, then dumped him in the ocean near Spain. When the body was found, the fake letter outlining the attack on Greece found its way to Hitler. He believed it was real, causing him to ignore Sicily. He sent 90,000 soldiers to Greece, expecting the Allies to attack. Meanwhile, the real invasion happened in Sicily and was easily won thanks to the fake officer. They dressed the dead body in a soldier's. The birds spits a thin strand of saliva on. The bird spits a thin strand of saliva onto the rock. Then it adds another, building it up layer by layer. As the saliva dries, it forms a hard cup-shaped nest. Harvesters remove these nests from the cave walls and clean it until it's pure white. When the nest is cooked, it melts into a thick soup that people eat, believing that it helps their skin look healthier. And because each nest takes weeks for a single bird to build, they sell for thousands of dollars per pound, making this nest one of the most valuable foods in the world. They would shoot at the airship as it flew overhead, and each bullet contained a tiny copper tube filled with dynamite. When it was fired, the high speeds caused the explosives to separate, leaving the most sensitive part at the tip of the bullet. The airship would then trigger an explosion in the bullet, and because the airship was filled with flammable gas, the exploding bullet would cause
you guys are cool.
Burst into flames, putting an end to the enemy.
You guys are cool.
They would shoot at. He received a mysterious letter in the mail promising free tickets to a football. Thousands of people in the area got the same letter, offering seats to a game, food, and even a shot at winning winning Super Bowl tickets. And
I'll
all
go-
they had to
I wanna
do
go
was show
there.
up at a convention
I'll go
center
there.
for a meal before the game. So, over 100 people
Oh!
lined up at the doors.
I'm that
while
guy.
cheerleaders and mascots greeted
I'm that guy.
the people
I'm
were led in
that
groups
girl.
to the auditorium. But once they were in, the doors locked.
What?
Then tactical teams stormed in, taking the whole group down at once.
What?
You see, those
Why?
letters hadn't gone to random fans. They were sent to wanted fugitives.
Oh.
Cheerleaders, ushers, and mascots were all U.S. Marshals and police officers. And in one afternoon, over 100 felons were arrested. He received a mysterious letter in the mail promising free tickets to a football game. If you were stranded on an island, you could shave your head bald and exfoliate your skin with a cloth before using oil to make it extra shiny. Then you
We
could
don't
tilt
have
your
oil.
head in different directions, and as the sunlight hit it, the smooth surface would act like a mirror, turning the light into a bright flash that could alert any nearby planes. Now, you
Oh.
might think you could reflect the sunlight onto a single spot to start a fire, but the top of your head is curved, which spreads light around. So even if you try for a long time, you'll probably just end up burning your scalp instead. If you were stranded on an island, to get the sculpture inside the eye of a needle, he first uses tiny tools to carve a rough figure, all while looking through a microscope. But as he works, his heartbeat makes the veins in his fingers pulse, and even the slightest movement can ruin a piece. So he only works in between heartbeats. Next, he refines the shape until it's perfect. And to paint it, he plucks out a single eyelash and attaches it to a tiny handle, then uses this as a
brush.
For tiny ships, he uses spider webs in place of ropes and files the bottom of the needle to make it rough before sticking the finished piece inside, making these some of the smallest handmade sculptures in the world. Get the sculpture inside.
That's
When the ant finds food, it oozes out chemicals through its abdomen, leaving a trail that tells the
that's
other
cool.
ones
Just
where
kidding.
to go. And after the other ants ate, they would add their own chemicals on their
Oh my
way
God,
back,
why?
which would strengthen the scent, attracting more ants.
It would
If the
attract
leader
the
ants
other
accidentally
people.
circled back to the middle of the trail, the other ants would start joining, reinforcing the circle while the original path slowly disappeared. And with no exit, they would march for hours until every single one died from exhaustion. When the ant finds food, it oozes out chemicals through its abdomen, leaving a trail that it would spit on the scorpion's tail to temporarily block the poisoned ducks. Then they would throw them into clay pots and seal them inside. As they were moved around, the scorpions would get angry. And some say that when the enemy attacked, the pots would be thrown down the city's walls. The clay smashed on landing, which would release the angry scorpions. And they would sting the enemy soldiers, leaving painful welts, forcing them to give up and retreat from battle. It would spit on the scorpion's tail to temporarily block the poisoned ducks. Then they would throw
Wait a
them into clay
minute.
pots
If you
and
spit
seal
the
them
wrong
inside.
way, you die
As they were moved
too.
around, the
So it's
scorpions
dumb.
would get angry. And some say that when the enemy
Get out.
If you buckle a child into a car, she puts super glue onto the tongue. Hi there. The ravens will circle the injured deer, calling out loudly. And when the wolf hears this, it comes running, attacking the easy prey. Once it's dead, the wolf rips open the carcass, and this signals the ravens to land. They feed on the deer alongside the wolf. They're not in danger. You see, ravens and wolves have learned to work together. The birds will even use sticks to play tug of war and fetch with the wolf cubs, making friends for life and partners in the hunt. The ravens will circle the... If you have a lazy eye, you can wear these goggles, which show a special version of the game Tetris. Now, your good eye would see only the bricks on the bottom of the screen, while your lazy eye sees only the falling bricks. And this
I see the falling
forces your
bricks.
eyes to work together, which strengthens the signals that your brain receives. And by playing for just 1 hour a day for
Mom,
a month,
games
it can
don't
actually
help
start to fix your
anything
vision.
in life. Me.
You have a lazy eye.
Look.
You can wear these goggles, which show
Bro,
a special
it's
version of the
falling.
game Tetris. Now, your good eye would see only
And
the
my
bricks
eye's
on the
not
bottom of the
lazy.
screen, while your lazy eye sees only the falling bricks.
Let's
And this forces your eyes to work together, which strengthens the signals that your brain
Bro,
receives.
it's
And
not
by
lazy.
playing for just 1 hour a day for a month, it can actually start to fix your vision. If you place the boiled egg on top of the bottle with
Bottle?
paper burning inside, the
Honey?
fire will heat the air inside the bottle, making it expand, and a little
Okay.
bit will escape, forcing the egg to jump. But once the inside of the bottle cools down again, it will be missing the lost air since the egg is blocking the entrance. This makes the air pressure inside the bottle lower, while the pressure outside is higher, which will start to put force on the egg. When it gets strong enough, it pushes the egg into the bottle. To get it out, just blow warm air inside to fill the bottle. And when the pressure gets too high, push on the egg again, forcing it to pop out.
Forcing it to pop out on your
Place
mouth
the
and
boiled
choke.
egg on the ship crashed between two icebergs, throwing
If
the
you
man
don't know
into
it's
a
that
sheet
or
of
not.
ice. And he watched as polar bears fed on his crewmates. When one attacked him, he managed to kill it with his knife. But he suddenly realized it had a baby. Out of pity, he raised her as his own, teaching her to fish for him.
Why is he so
She even
cute?
protected him by fighting off other bears. And they lived this way for the next 6 years. Eventually, the man was rescued, but the bear who saved his life was left behind.
So
The
that's
ship
sad.
crashed.
But I see this
If
before.
you bite into a super hot jawbreaker, you
What
might
that?
think it would just crack a little and burn your mouth. But jawbreakers are made of layers of sugar, and as the heat moves into the candy, the outer layers cool down as the inside starts to boil. This builds up extreme amounts of pressure inside.
Then I
So
will
when
die.
you bite down, the surface gets cracked, and the pressure is released, blasting the molten sugar everywhere, and giving you and your friends severe burns.
And
You
die.
bite into a super hot jawbreaker. The child fell in an accident, damaging the left
But I
side.
see this before.
When
What that?
you check
Your phone ringing. Your phone ringing. Big boy, come pick up your phone. How you know pick up your phone? Your phone ringing. Your phone going to go to voicemail. Goodbye.
When you check
Yeah.
out your groceries, the AI watches you, checking for suspicious movements. And if you try to switch the stickers on different items, the computer will scan its database, making sure the item matches. If it looks like you're stealing, it will alert the workers. Cameras can even track the faces of everyone entering the store, letting employees keep out
That's good.
shoplifters before they can reach aisles. But since it gets things wrong, it could set off the alarm for innocent shoppers, causing a scene and embarrassing you for no reason. When you check out your groceries, the AI watches. The wings were attached to the car, and just moments later,
Why?
it sped forward, lifting into the air. You see, they wanted to make something that could drive to the airport before transforming into a flying car and soaring through the air next to other airplanes. But the wings weren't properly attached, and they also used a big engine that made the car heavier than normal. So a few minutes into the test flight, the wings stopped working and
Oh
dropped
my
the car
God.
from 800 feet in the sky.
And your face
which
is like
killed
this
both
also.
inventors and ended their dream of creating a flying car. The wings
POV. You're that parent
Yeah.
kid.
water began to pour in from the vents in the elevator, and within seconds, it flooded up to their necks,
Flood
stopping them
your
from pressing
phone.
the open button. If
Oh
they
my
didn't act
God.
fast, the water would trap them inside as they slowly drowned.
So
they stepped
so
onto the
sad.
railings to keep their heads
So
above the
sad.
surface.
Your
And one person
iPhone
managed
is
to call 911
drowning.
while another called his roommate. But before rescuers could even arrive, the elevator was almost filled to the ceiling. So the roommate pried the doors open and saved their lives. water
But
began
the
to pour
police
in.
didn't.
His leg was trapped under a log when his owners were away, shriveling up as the days passed. By the time he was brought to the animal
Oh my
hospital,
god.
the vet had to cut it off. Now, when a tortoise loses its legs, it can take a long time to learn how to walk again. So the vets 3D printed a tiny wheel and stuck putty right under his shell, gluing the wheel in place. And the tortoise was able to roll around as if nothing ever happened. His leg was trapped under a
So
log
he's
when
not
his
slow
owners
again.
were away, shriveling
Alright.
up as the days passed. By the time
Base. You still navigating that yet?
just one link from the anchor chain weighs about the same as a refrigerator. And the entire
What?
thing altogether can weigh as much as a blue whale.
What?
Now, you might think the anchor is what keeps the ship still, but if it landed on a hard surface, it would just slide across the seafloor as the ship floated away. See, the anchor isn't just dropped straight down. They stretch the chain flat for hundreds of feet before letting it curve back up to the ship. And when the waves push, the energy travels up the links. But it's usually not strong enough to pull the whole thing up, so the combined weight of both is actually what keeps your ship floating in place. Using one link from the anchor chain,
Okay.
you drove fast towards a small lake.
Oh my god, guys, it's almost
Over the
1 hour.
water Before landing on the other side. But when you skip a stone, the speed keeps it on the surface of the water, while the low angle stops it from immediately plopping in.
Let's
So,
do
if
1
you were
hour
driving a
Zack
car at 50 miles an
films,
hour, it would
guys.
hit the water nose first, making it sink. But
That's
if you doubled the speed and added a special fuel tank to
What
increase the engine power, the car could actually skim over the water,
Give me that.
bouncing a few
Give me that.
times before landing perfectly on the other side.
Wow.
If you drove fast towards a small lake, could you skip over the water before
Just
smell delicious? Stack the white and dark chocolate
forgot
bars
what to
before
say.
chopping them into small pieces.
I
And
wanna
heat
eat that,
milk
I
in a
wanna
pot
eat that.
under heat. Then stir in cocoa powder and a spoonful of sugar. And when it starts to simmer, dump in the chocolate, mixing until it's evenly spread. After that, add a splash of vanilla and a pinch of salt for a deeper flavor. And once everything's mixed, pour it into a mug, topping it off with a candy cane and marshmallows.
Oh,
Finally,
it's a
blow torch
cocoa?
the marshmallows until they're golden brown to give you the perfect cup of hot chocolate.
a whole
Stack the white
chocolate.
and dark chocolate. As they unzipped the bag, they found the spy's
Yummy.
dead body inside. Now, the bag was locked from the outside, and the heat in his apartment
Yeah.
was on, even though it was summer, which made his body rot
Oh.
faster. But he didn't.
Yeah. So this.
If a child has a badly curved spine, a doctor might position a metal ring over their head. Then they will insert small pins
Oh
into
my
their
god,
skull,
I would die with
attaching the
that.
halo to the child's head. This halo is connected to a pulley system that gently stretches their spine. Over time, the doctor will add more weight, causing the child's bones to straighten. And once they are realigned, they'll perform surgery to lock it in place permanently. If the child has a bad the river would push the gates closed, and the angled doors would seal tight from the pressure, making the water rise on one side as it flowed. Now, if you tried to push the gate open again, the pressure would just make it impossible. But small flaps on the bottom of each gate could be opened, allowing water to flow through. And when the river was the same level on each side, the pressure evened out, meaning you could open the gates easily. Now, this ancient design is still used today in the Panama Canal, creating locks between sections of the canal that have different heights. When boats enter, they can be raised or lowered to the height of the next section before continuing their journey. But since these gates are so big, their weight started to destroy the hinges, which is why they were redesigned to be hollow, allowing them to float. The river would push the gates closed. Okay, Mr. President. The mosquito's lip folds back, and 6 thin needles slide out. 2 of them puncture the skin, while 2 more needles with sharp serrated edges spread your skin apart, holding the wound open. Then a fifth needle slides in, finds a blood vessel, pokes into it, and sucks your blood up through the tube. At the same time, a sixth needle drips saliva into the wound, which numbs the area so you don't feel anything until it's too late. The mosquito's lip folds back, and 6 thin needles slide out. 2 of them puncture the skin, while 2 more needles with sharp serrated edges spread your skin apart, holding the wound open. Then a 5th needle slides in, finds a blood vessel, pokes into it, and sucks your blood up through the tube. At the same time, a 6th needle drips saliva into the wound, which, when you press down, a hollow metal tube punches through the cherry, removing the hard pit. Then, if you crack the pit open, you'll find an even smaller seed inside. Now, soak a paper towel with water before placing the seed on top, adding a dusting of cinnamon to prevent mold from growing. Then, fold the wet towel over the seed and seal it inside a plastic bag, placing it inside your fridge. In just about 12 weeks, a tiny root will push out of the seed. Remove the bag and place it inside a pot with dirt, making sure that the root is pointing down. Then cover it with dirt and add a...
Wait. Let's see what you just inside me just now, bruh. Let's see. What they sent. Bro, they said nothing.
If you jumped through one portal, you would fall out from the other one. And if you put them back to back, it would just feel like you're moving through normal space. But what if you pushed one into the other? Well, the portal has to go somewhere. So, as it enters the second one, the vanishing end would start coming out of itself again and again. And if you were halfway through it as it went in, it would break you apart until you became a jumbled mess of body parts. He bet money on when the man would die. If he died within a month, the person in charge would win the money. If he died between 1 and 6 months, the stranger would get the money. And this betting wasn't rare. People across the city gambled on their dying neighbors and even their own family members. Even doctors joined in on the game, seeing how much money they could make. The police started to investigate, and the game eventually stopped. He bet money.
That's good. Let's watch another one.
A jar with an oily mix, added a fat wick, then lit it and launched it at enemy ships. Now this oily mix was called Greek fire, and when it broke on impact, it would spew outward in flaming drops, and these drops would spread across the deck, sticking to wood and rope. The mixture kept burning, even on water, so the flames couldn't be put out. Each blob became another patch of fire, spreading across the ship.
Oh my god. Okay guys, hope you enjoy it. Please subscribe to my channel. So bye.